It's been long awaited, a major shakeup in Nigeria's cabinet. President Bola Tinubu has announced sweeping changes to his cabinet. Several ministers have been reassigned, some dismissed, and new faces nominated to join the cabinet. State House correspondent Adesuwa Moran tells us more.
The Federal Executive Council reconvened after a month's hiatus and a 2 weeks vacation by President Bola Tinubu. After months of speculation, the president finally announces a sweeping cabinet reshuffle aimed at boosting government efficiency. The shakeup includes a major restructuring, reassignments of ministers, dismissals, as well as appointments.
The president has approved the immediate implementation of 8 far-reaching actions to reinvigorate capacity for optimal efficiency, pursuant of his commitment to deliver on his promises to Nigerians. The 8 actions approved by the president include: 1, as the Minister of Information had already told us, the renaming of the Ministry of Data Development to Ministry of Regional Development to oversee the activities of all the regional development commissions. The regional development commissions to be under the supervision of the new ministry are the Niger Delta Development Commission, the Southeast Development Commission, the Northeast Development Commission, and the Northwest Development Commission.
The Ministry of Sports Development has been dissolved, with its responsibility now transferred to the National Sports Commission, which will be chaired by Shehu Diko, while Sunday Dare, former Minister of Sports in the Muhammadu Buhari administration, is appointed as the Special Advisor to the President on Public Communication and Orientation. Additionally, the Ministry of Tourism has been merged with the Ministry of Arts and Culture, creating the Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism and Creative Economy, now led by Hannatu Musawa. Tinubu wielded the big stick, dismissing 5 ministers as part of the sweeping cabinet reshuffle.
These are the following ministers who have been in charge, and as you know, the president met them this afternoon to thank them for their services for the nation. They are as follows: Barrister Uju Ken Oaneye, Minister of Women Affairs; Lola Adejon, Minister of Tourism; Professor Tahir Mama, Minister of Education; Abdullahi Muhammad Guazo, Minister of State Housing and Urban Development; Dr. Jamila Bio Ibrahim, Minister of Youth Development. So only 5 ministers who are discharged.
10 ministers have been reassigned to new portfolios. Dr. Yusuf Sununu, previously Minister of State for Education, is now Minister of State for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction. Tunji Alausa, formerly Minister of State for Health, has been elevated to the role of Minister of Education. Bello Goronyo, who was the Minister of State for Water Resources and Sanitation, is now the Minister of State for Works. Abubakar Momo, who once led the Niger Delta Ministry, now oversees the newly created Ministry of Regional Development. Uba Amadu, who served as Minister of State for Steel Development, has been reassigned as Minister of State for Regional Development. Doris Uzoka Anete has transitioned from the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment to become Minister of State for Finance. Senator John Eno, previously in charge of Sports Development, is now the Minister of State for Trade and Investment following the dissolution of his former ministry. Iman Suleiman Ibrahim moves from Minister of State for Police Affairs to Minister of Women Affairs. Ayodele Olawande, previously Minister of State for Youth Development, is now the Minister of Youth Development, and Dr. Salako Adeboye, formerly Minister of State for Environment, takes on the role of Minister. In addition to these changes, President Tinubu has nominated 7 new ministers pending Senate approval. The nominees include Dr. Netawe Yiwatda as Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Bianca Odinaka Odumegu Ojukwu as Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Muhammadu Megari Dinyaji, who previously served as Minister of Police Affairs under former President Muhammadu Buhari, has been nominated to replace Simon Lalong as Minister of Employment. Lalong had left the administration to focus on his position in the 10th Senate. Others are Jumoke Oduwole as Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Idimukta Mahia as Minister of a newly established ministry. Suwaiba Ahmed has been nominated as Minister of State for Education. while Yusuf Atta is nominated as Minister of State for Housing and Urban Development. The president had set up a central delivery coordination unit led by Hadiza Bala Usman to measure the performance of his minister. Since then, only Betta Edu, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, had been suspended after an alleged financial misappropriation until now, as she has been officially replaced in this cabinet overhaul. This shake-up comes after months of anticipation and follows President Tinubu's earlier warning to members of his cabinet about underperformance months ago during a retreat. No doubt this reshuffle raises expectations on performance as the administration faces pressure to deliver on its promises and address Nigeria's pressing challenges. From the presidential villa, Omorwan, Arise News.
The Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Odonduga, spoke about the cabinet revamp on Prime Time with Charles Anyagolu.
We didn't use the word sack. The president used the word discharge.
Yeah, but they were, let's face it, they were let go.
Yeah, they were let go, they were relieved of their duties.
Right.
And some other people were. But see, the way the president dealt with it, after the council meeting today, he had a meeting, called them for a meeting, and I think he thanked them for the services they rendered in the last 1 year or so. And I think on that note, the party, it didn't just, don't like the military days when you are sacked on radio. He called them. He tried to socialize with them, fit another day, and say, thank you for what they've done, and explain to them why they just had to go.
Okay, well, that's actually that's a very interesting point. And that's a fairly polite way to say goodbye. Because I was going to ask you whether or not, because I mean, we saw them at that Federal Executive Council meeting today, whether or not he made the announcement at the Federal Executive Council meeting.
He didn't make that. The only hint he gave was that at the end of the meeting, he named some 5 persons and asked them to see him after the meeting.
But that must have been a warning sign, wasn't it?
Well, unless you are very perceptive, you don't really know what was amiss. So I think he was polite in the way he dealt with it. I said he didn't do it the military way, at least he called them and told them, this is why I'm asking you to go. Yeah.
So, I mean, it can be said then that those who were effectively sacked, even though you don't like that word, were not meeting the president's expectations.
Not just the president's expectation. It's the expectation of the public.
Yeah, but obviously the president has the power to fire.
Some weeks ago, at the cabinet meeting, the president actually told the ministers to go out there, tell Nigerians what you are doing, what you have been doing for the past 1 year or so. Because according to the president, he said, the perception outside there by the people is that the people feel that the government is not performing. And the president said, look, the president believes that the government is performing, but the ministers are not going out to really project government the appropriate way. So he told them, go out there, tell people what you are doing. I said, whatever happened to what happened today was based on some empiricism. It was not just something done fancy or anything, but there was some basic facts that the president used, some criteria that were used to ask some people to go.
Right. So are these new appointments and reassignments expected to alter policy significantly?
Don't forget we have a program, the Renewed Hope Agenda, which the president keeps stressing.
Well, that's a slogan.
It's not a slogan. There's a program. We have a manifesto, and the manifesto touches every aspect of our country, including some of those decisions that people have criticized the government for, the removal of subsidy, the harmonization of the exchange rate. They are all contained in this program. And every facet of it, each ministry knows he has to do something to execute the ideas, the program already lined up in that our Renew Hope manifesto. So that is the duty. Any of the ministers know what you have to do, just go and read the Renew Hope Agenda manifesto and execute the program there.
But are you actually, I mean, I'm keen to know what difference this cabinet reshuffle is going to make, because presumably it represents the president's desire to move the country forward. But the question is how, because you're saying that they're going to go back and read the manifesto. I mean, are these people who are appropriate to the appointments in terms of their background experience?
Now, let me give an example. Bianca. Some people say, Bianca, Odumego Juku's widow of Ojuku and so on. But Bianca has some diplomatic experience.
Yes, she does, actually.
She's been ambassador in Spain. And so, by asking her to be Minister of State for Foreign Affairs shows you the president's intention. Even though people may say it's political or something, but
well, there's an element of politics there, isn't there?
The lady has some experience, so she will have some value in that Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Indeed.
So if you look at the man, the Dr. Alausa, who has been taken from Ministry of Health to Ministry of Education, he's a US-based doctor. I think he's a very versatile man, and he's done well in the Ministry of Health. The president wants to challenge him to go and do even much better in the Ministry of Education. So there are a lot of people like that, like the man who has been appointed Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, the engineer from Plateau State. You know, for a long time, Plateau, after Simon Lalong, went to the Senate to become a senator. Plateau did not have anybody in the cabinet. So the president corrected that today by bringing the governorship candidate of APC to take Plato's place. And he's a very qualified guy. He's an engineer. I think he read electronic engineering or something like that. And so he has to go to the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. And I believe that he's going to do
right.
All right, a number of things to talk about. Rufai, your take on this story.
Okay. Couple of things. Finally, we've been calling for ministerial reshuffling. We finally have it. But I still feel there were many ministers that were not working, that President Tinubu didn't discharge. So I'm not content with this ministerial reshuffling. There are many ministers and their ministry had not worked. I have some off the top of my head. There are many ministers that said a lot of things that were contrarian to what was reality. Example, the power sector. Now, the minister was saying that about 40% of Nigerians have access to about over 20 hours of power every day, when National Bureau of Statistics recently released that it's only 58% of Nigerians that are on the grid. And we've seen the problem in the power sector. Grid collapses and grid failures here and there. I can go on and on and on about these ministries, but some have been pulled out. Ray of hope in this new ministers brought in. And besides, the cabinet is still heavily bloated. It's still a very big cabinet. And some ministries I have quibble with, creating a Ministry of Livestock, where you have Ministry of Agriculture. A lot still has to be done about the cabinet. Jumoke Oduwole is a good one. She led PEBEC for a while now, and would like to see her bring that innovation she's brought in the ease of doing business to trade and investment. If she does well, we'll celebrate her. If she doesn't do well, definitely we will look at her critically and tell truth to power. Also, the case of the humanitarian ministry is another one. Finally, the case of Betta had been laid to rest, because only yesterday we saw a lot of stories here and there that Betta were probably brought back. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs must remember that that ministry is to reduce poverty. We must not hear any appropriation shenanigans. I hear my time is up. I would have loved to speak more on this. I yield the floor.
Well, I cannot comment on this subject in 1 minute. You know, maybe I should just keep quiet, because it's a subject that I would like to talk about. Since we have a guest, maybe when the guest comes, Okay, because if I'm reduced to 1 minute, it's a problem. However, it's as follows. This was, a change of cabinet, a reshuffle of cabinet, a rejigging of cabinet that was announced 1 month ago. At that time when they made the announcement, I said it was not necessary. Now, 1 month later, what has happened looks like an anticlimax. It looks like it's cosmetic. It's not the kind of reshuffling that, the Nigerian people are expecting. So it comes as a kind of disappointment. However, the people who have said that they are disappointed should be reminded that the president of Nigeria hires and fires as he wishes. It is his government. He chooses his own team. And it is prerogative for him to choose who he wants to work with. Now we're told that this is based on an assessment of the performance of the ministers before now. 45 of them, the content delivery, service delivery team led by Adiza Bala Usman. Okay, is this a reflection of that assessment? Many Nigerians say no, they have their own different assessment. And they think that more ministers should have been turned adrift. Number 4 is that the statement, talking about these 8 issues that the president says he's introducing, he's addressing to increase efficiency, that statement was not signed. It's called the presidency. In fact, that statement is also not dated. Who is that so-called the presidency? Who is the human agent that is the presidency? I think one of the things that President Tinubu should do going forward is to name a specific spokesperson formally, so that statements from the presidency will be duly signed. If it was not signed by a spokesperson, it could have been signed by the secretary to the government of the federation, who is the coordinator. Now to the 8 points. Now he says that the Ministry of Niger Delta will now be Ministry of Regional Development. Okay, to accommodate other areas. Well, some people will say, how about the North Central? Is there a North Central Development Agency? No. Is it Hyperdeck that will represent them under that? The minister, Momo, has tried to disabuse people's minds. Okay, maybe people will be satisfied with that explanation. Number 2, he says he has appointed Sunday Dare as a special advisor, public information and orientation. In the Ministry of Information, he's not in the presidency, he's with the Minister of Information. What kind of responsibilities will he be given? He could just have been named Minister of State for Information, and that will have been that. Shehu Diko has now been named Director General of the National Sports Commission, and the Ministry of Sports has been scrapped. There are many Nigerians who are saying, well, Shehu Diko is a very experienced man, former second vice president of the NFF, a board member of CAF, committee member of FIFA. Yes, it comes with very strong credentials. But what is the reason for, scrapping that ministry? They have not told us. Now, we're also told that 10 ministers have been reassigned to new portfolios. Nigerians are saying some other ministers should even be reassigned, or they should be asked to leave. 5 ministers have been discharged. Top of the list, Uju Kennedy Ohaneye, the most controversial minister in that cabinet before now. Well, the reasons may be obvious. People will say, well, she did this, she did that in Niger State, the University of Calabar incident, and all of that. Very controversial, but she herself should be very grateful that President Tinubu recognized her as the only female who aspired to be president on the platform of the APC. Then Lola Adejon, tourism, well, she was sleeping most of the time. In other words, she didn't make any impact. But joining tourism to culture and creative economy, I don't think is a very good idea, because tourism is so important that it should stand on its own. Even if the person there was not vibrant enough, that should be no reason to merge it. Taye Mamman, Minister of Education, what is his offense? Because I really can't find his offense other than the controversy over age limit for university admissions. Are there other reasons why he was turned adrift? And if he must be replaced, should he be replaced with a medical doctor? I'm not saying Dr. Alausa is not competent, but a medical doctor to take over from a man who was vice chancellor of Base University, who was Director General of the Nigerian Law School, it doesn't seem to make sense to me. Now, the other people that were turned adrift, Jamila Bio Ibrahim and the Minister of State Housing and Development, whatever, those two, they came the same way, they left the same way they came, quietly, because I don't think they made any impact. But in the new appointments, I think some of them look really good. Dikin Yadi, who is now in humanitarian affairs, has a very good CV, PhD engineering and all of that. We hope that he will be able to translate that into performance. Jumoke Oduwole, of course, has been in PEBEC. She's everywhere, LLM and all that. Excellent pedigree from Ogun State, and she's, a round peg in a round hole. I wish the same could be said for the others. The woman in Ministry of Women Affairs, on paper, the new person seems to have a very good CV, and I hope that she will be able to live up to that in terms of expectation. But it's not an ass-shaking, all that drama, one more drama, we will reshuffle cabinet was not necessary. But President Tinubu has other things to do, as I pointed out previously. Like, for example, where are our ambassadors? They have not appointed ambassadors. Okay, Mrs. Ojukwu has been made the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs. The Minister of State for Foreign Affairs handles ECOWAS, AU, all these African issues, while the Minister of Foreign Affairs deals with the bigger issues of the Commonwealth, United Nations. Well, she's been a special assistant, senior special assistant on diaspora affairs. She's been High Commissioner to Ghana. She's been ambassador to Spain. She has a master's in international law, international relations and diplomacy. So on paper also, she seems to be eminently qualified for the job. But on the whole, it's not something that anybody should dance and sing about. I think that President Tinubu could have done better. But as I said, it is his cabinet and it is his prerogative to choose his own team.
All right, let me start with the newly appointed ministers, and congratulations to them. Pending Senate confirmation, which possibly would go through, except some things that would come up. I doubt that very strongly. But I want to say that when you compare this set of appointment to the previous one, it feels or it seems like for this set of appointments, the people who were appointed are eminently qualified. They are qualified. If you look at the list of people, starting off with Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, unlike what we saw in the last set of appointments, when we had the main appointment, where we talked about some of those positions being filled by political, just to pay, political friends and people who didn't know what they were doing or had any qualification or bona fide to be in that position. The new set of ministers seem aptly qualified. Dr. Jumoke Oduwole has been, started off as SSA to the President on Ease of Doing Business, was promoted to the SA on Ease of Doing Business, and under her tenure, we saw Nigeria move up on the World Ease of Doing Index a few steps higher. And so she was able to prove her mettle in that position. I'm looking forward to what she will do. I felt like her position didn't give her enough powers to be able to implement some of the changes that we need to see to make Nigeria, the investment climate for Nigeria enabling, attractive enough for people to come. A number of reforms she did with some multiple stakeholders. So I'm looking forward to her building up on the work that she's done in the past to consolidate on that and really, make that Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment really vibrant. Also looking at how, investor confidence in Nigeria, some of the bottlenecks that have been experienced by potential investors to the country. I know we talked about visas on arrival. We talked about taxation and a lot of other things like that. It would be great to see her do that. Unfortunately, I was saying yesterday on my ex that Madam Uju Kennedy, Dr. Uju Kennedy Ohaneye is no longer the Minister of Women Affairs. Say what you will. She's one of the ministers who showed passion and was consistently in the news, whether for good or bad. But at least she was able to demonstrate that she was quite passionate in that role. So it would be great to see what Iman Suleiman Ibrahim would do. I said as well that Dr. Jamila Ibio Ibrahim, I had such high hopes for her. Young, female, heading the Ministry of Youth Affairs, catering to 60% of Nigeria's population. We expected a lot more. Unfortunately, it seemed as if the post or the position was overwhelming for her. And so she was just there trying to understand the terrain and didn't quite get her footing until she was discharged by the president. Now we have Ayodele Olawande, who was, prior to this, the Minister of State for Youth Affairs. Let's hope that he would do, something, work with. There's so many potentials. We talk about the young people, our talents in Nigeria being our greatest potential. So many ways to tap into that and to really engage our young people. Over 60% of the population. So very, very high stakes for him. And I'm hoping that he'll be able to deliver because the youth deserve that. I was going to say 3 women out in terms of being discharged, 3 women in. So still balanced in terms of the numbers. The president hasn't still yet been able to fulfill his 35% gender equity or gender balance in his appointments, especially with regards to the ministers. So still looking to see that in his appointments. It's not yet reflected. But also, finally, I'll talk about the Ministry of Tourism, Art, Culture, and Creative Economy. I do agree that that's such a big ministry, and the concern or the fear there is that one will suffer for the other. Minister Hannatu Musawa has done quite well, appeared or shown in the right places, but I also feel that there's a lot of potential there. I love how she's been able to get into the creative sector, film, music, but we can use those vehicles as an opportunity to promote tourism to Nigeria. We've seen how that's happened in other places. United Arab Emirates does it, South Africa does it, where their movies are deliberately sponsored to showcase the beauty of the country so that it attracts people to want to come. And this is how she can possibly merge that department, her ministry, to ensure she's able to optimize it. So a lot of things can be done. I feel like, yes, we can say, oh yes, the security issues and all that, but Lebanon and some of the places that we really enjoy going to are not yet settled, security-wise, but people still go there to visit. So I believe that there's a way she can, the messaging, using film, using art, using entertainment to really position Nigeria as a destination of choice for a lot of people to come and do business and to come for tourism. But, so many things to talk about there, and I know we have a guest who's going to be speaking to us very shortly.